Yeah.
This is Geek Therapy Radio.
What are we waiting for?
And now your mental curator, Johnny Hamburger.
Welcome to Geek Therapy Radio. I'm your mental carburetor? No. Caretaker? No. Curator. Mental curator Johnny Hamburger. If I even decide to upload this to YouTube, I'm recording this on a smartphone that cost $120 brand new. It's like the, what is it, Snoo or something? What is this called? The new NUU X5? Whatever. If you've noticed, I did not drop the podcast version of this show. The broadcast and the podcast are the exact same thing, except that in the podcast, I'm not in the time constraints. So if I have a long interview that I don't have to edit down to make the broadcast cut, in the podcast, you'll be able to hear the full things. For instance, the full interviews. For instance, when I interviewed Lights, that interview, I talked to her for like 30 minutes, 35 minutes, but I had to whittle it down to fit the constraints of time for the air. So I whittled down a 35-minute interview to like 15 minutes or something like that at the time. So the podcast did not drop for this week, Friday afternoon because it was a busy week. I'm just letting you behind the curtains here a little bit. It was a busy week here in the news. Normally, I record on Thursdays. If you recall, Thursday this week, this is not going to be an evergreen show, I guess. Thursday this week was the Kavanaugh hearing. And I work my 9 to 5, quote unquote. It's actually 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. over on KTRH, News Radio 740 KTRH. And we ran the Kavanaugh hearing like it was 9/11. As far as the format of the day on KTRH, we ran it like it was breaking news, because it was breaking news. We ran it like it was breaking news all day long. So normally I record on Thursdays. There was not a chance of that happening. The phone was blowing up. My bosses were calling me. Let's make sure we're doing this, this, and this. And have you talked to so-and-so? And do-do-do-do. All sorts of moving parts going on. People walking into the actual studio, asking stuff, talking about stuff, needing stuff. Just a normal kind of busy breaking news workday. So no, on Thursday, I did not get a chance to record this episode of Geek Therapy Radio. This week is also Sarah's birthday. As I'm recording this right now on Friday, it is Sarah's birthday, so wish her a happy birthday. We're going out to eat tonight for her birthday. And why am I telling you all this? I didn't want to record the episode last night either, Thursday night either, because I wanted some alone time with her before her birthday. I didn't want to come home and just be working because our time together is so precious anyways. I didn't want to be working on basically Thursday, her pre-birthday night. I don't know. I just didn't want to do that. And since we're going out to eat tonight, I'm not recording it later on tonight either. Squeezing it in here in the last hour here of my shift at KTRH. Let's move on. One more time, if you're watching this on YouTube, if I even decide to upload it, I'm using the front camera of a very cheap smartphone. Because, happy birthday, Sarah, I gave her my Galaxy S9 Plus. Don't worry. Eventually, I'll get the Galaxy Note 9. So we'll see. Right now, cheap stopgap cell phone, the new X5 or whatever. All I wanted to talk about, really cover, at least briefly in this first segment, was that Elon Musk has been charged by the SEC with fraud. So Elon, up to and including the SEC saying that Elon Musk should step down as CEO of his own company, Tesla. That's rather amazing for many reasons. One, I remember when Elon Musk sent out the tweet. Basically, what this is all about is that Elon Musk sent out a tweet in August saying that he's secured funding to take Tesla private for $420 a share. When it turns out, no, he didn't. He didn't have it. It turns out that it didn't happen the way he thought it was going to happen. He basically had a loose tie to somebody that said they might do it. Nothing was confirmed. Nothing was concrete. And basically, Elon Musk jumped the gun and said, yep, I got it. I've got the backing and everything. So I understand the SEC saying that is fraudulent because the price of Tesla stock after he announced that did go up. It saw an uptick. It's like 7%, or don't quote me on that, but it was a few percentage points. Basically, all it boils down to this. Insider trading. give or take. And all I wanted to get at with this was that people saying, "Oh, insider trading, that's like Elon Musk better take a note from what's her face? Oh, Martha Stewart." Well, here's the reason why Martha Stewart went to jail. Martha Stewart didn't go to jail for insider trading. She went to jail for lying about insider trading. So Elon Musk has to be very careful here with how he handles this. And as a reminder to everybody, especially Musk, watch what you say on freaking social media. When he tweeted that in August, I couldn't believe it. It's like, Musk, what are you thinking right now? This was around the time of the Thailand cave rescue and all that kind of stuff. So like, Musk, what are you doing here? Control yourself. A minute here on the way out for Audi Central Houston. Yeah, one of the things I say about Audi Central Houston is that, surprisingly, you might not think with a luxury car brand that they would have models that could cater to almost every budget, but they really do. If you want to get into a luxury car brand, specifically Audi at Audi Central Houston, they have a model called the A3. You can get into the A3 for under 30 grand, which is, for a luxury car, really not that much spend. And guess what? You're getting the most technology. You're getting the same technology that you would get in an R8. They're all Audis. They all use the same parts, more or less, for different models. So if you're just spending $30K just on an A3, you are getting so much bang for your buck. It gets almost 40 miles to the gallon, 36, 37 miles to the gallon. It's amazing. So make sure you go visit my friends at Audi Central Houston and tell them Geek Therapy Radio sent you. Kung Fu Saloon, 5317 Washington Avenue. Geeks, there is no better place to be on a Friday or Saturday night, or even a Thursday afternoon for that matter, than Kung Fu Saloon right here at 5317 Washington Avenue. And let me tell you why. Great food, which is an understatement. I had a burger there last weekend. It blew my head off. It was amazing. My girlfriend had French fries, and she was mad at me at how many French fries I was taking. So the food, great beer, great drinks. And you know what the kicker is? You are surrounded by arcade games, and there are games there for everybody. I personally prefer Street Fighter 2. Step to me on Street Fighter 2 and you'll get served, like I've always told you. But there's also skee-ball. Skee-ball is fun. And Mario Kart. And if it strikes your fancy, karaoke. All of this can be found at Kung Fu Saloon, 5317 Washington Avenue. That's Kung Fu Saloon, 5317 Washington Avenue, kungfusaloon.com. Welcome back to Geek Therapy Radio. I'm your mental curator, Johnny Hemberger. If you aren't already following me on the social media, speaking of social media from last segment, I don't do as silly things as Elon Musk as far as potentially, oh my God, talking is so hard. Potentially being charged of fraud in insider trading. I don't do all that kind of stuff on social media, but if you follow Geek Therapy Radio on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, it's at Geek Therapy Radio. Just type in Geek Therapy Radio into anything, any social media. That's a good way to follow me and to talk to me. And I do respond, and I will respond. So just get at me on that social media, like especially Twitter. I've been looking at Twitter, even though Twitter is cancer. Holy moly mackerel, especially around political events. Oh, I barely looked at Twitter yesterday. Anyways, get at me on Twitter. It's Geek Therapy Radio on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all that good stuff. State of the Union, real quick. In this segment, I want to talk about a Facebook moderator that has sued Facebook. And we'll get into that in a second. But State of the Union with Geek Therapy Radio. If you haven't noticed, you're listening to this right now on the radio, and it is midnight. It is probably, we just came back from a break. It's probably 15-ish a.m. Sunday morning. I like to call Saturday night. So I'm all the way here, tucked in my little nook that's the very first show of the week, technically. Very first show of the week, technically. Any way you kind of want to look at it. So here I am all by myself at midnight in a size 6 radio market, which is massive. That means potentially that if everyone in Houston, in our area, turned on the radio right now, that over 6 million people would be hearing me. That's what size 6 market means. So I'm here, size 6 market at midnight. The ratings are not Walton and Johnson ratings. Let's not kid ourselves here. But in my most recent meeting with the bigwigs at iHeart, what has happened at midnight here, and I wear this with a badge of honor, is that the Nielsen ratings went from, I'm not sure I can repeat the actual Nielsen ratings, but there was an uptick. My show came on here, Geek Therapy Radio, at midnight, and it saw an uptick at the midnight time slot. So thank you guys for that. Thank you all you geeks and geekettes for that uptick in the Nielsen ratings. It's very hard to extrapolate from Nielsen ratings, but here's what is more tangible. You might be thinking, oh, well, but it's broadcast. Like how when I talk to potential sponsors, they want to know numbers and Nielsen ratings. It's kind of hard. But here's something tangible. I've always said that this broadcast is advertisement for the podcast. The broadcast of Geek Therapy Radio is promotion for the podcast. Because podcasts are where you're actually able to track the clicks. And when I put the blogs up, my blog posts up on KPRC 950, up on 94.5 The Buzz's website and Sunny 99.1's website, all that good stuff and all those social media things, you can actually trace those clicks. And that's what you can bring to sponsors and potential partners of your show or whatever, my show. And I can say, look, here's my engagement. Here's what I do. So while my show is at midnight on KPRC, I'm very proud that the podcast is number 2 on KPRC. Out of all the local shows on KPRC 950 AM that you're listening to right now, Geek Therapy Radio ranks number 2. You know who's number 1? James Simpson, well-deserved, with What's on Tap Radio. But guess what's happening, my geeks? That gap is closing. I'm so thankful for that, and it has bred like a healthy competition among us here on KPRC Radio. Garf said he's coming at me. He's gonna usurp me at number 2. Well, bring it on. I love you, Garf. High Tech Texan, bring it on. James is still a little bit away ahead of me, but like I said, the gap is narrowing. And I told him this the other day. I was like, James. He's like, congratulations on number 2. I've been number 2 for a while here because the gap between me and James has been so seemingly vast. He's at a certain number. I'm at a certain number. And he said, congrats on narrowing the gap. You're going to be number 1 in no time. You're going to take over my show's spot in no time. I was like, no, you are so far ahead of me right now that like you have plenty of time to enjoy the number 1 spot. Even if I keep growing at the rate I'm growing, you got plenty of time. And he's like, you know what? I'm not so sure, because James goes, it took me 3 or 4 years or however long his show has been there to get the numbers that he has. I'm nipping at his heels effectively with numbers, and I've been on for less than a year and a half. So I've gone 90% of the way to catch up to the number 1 podcast, What's on Tap Radio. I've gone 90% of the way to catch up with him in a year and a half, and he's had 2 or 3 years of a head start. And he's the one who said that to me. That's fun. You know what I do? I look at the numbers, like I can follow and track in real time, like the numbers and my listens and stuff. And I said on Facebook recently that, my show isn't huge. This is not Joe Rogan. This is not. Now, of course, as far as numbers go, my show is not Mark Maron or Joe Rogan, or even the Michael Berry show over on KTRH. But the numbers have grown, and I've been able to watch the bumps in listens as the time zones roll across the country. So that's really nice. So, on the East Coast, I can see 4 p.m. Central Time, 5 p.m. here. Then 6 p.m. I can see it rolling through in Mountain Time for all the 4 people in Mountain Time. And then the West Coast, 7 p.m. Central Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time, I can see the bump in listens. That means people are listening to my show across the country, for one thing, and even across the world. I've got quite a few listeners in France. And there's a point to all this, and it's really to not give up. I've seen those numbers go from 6 listeners a week when I first started here, regardless of it being a size 6 market, going from 6 listeners a week, probably, honestly, friends and family, to exponentially more, let's just say. A lot more. What are my listeners per week? It's I forget what the actual number is, but it's exponentially enough that I can see it being listened to all around the world in the bump ups and clicks and listens across the time zones. People are listening to me on their commute home. People are listening to me when they get home or when they're relaxing, and I can trace that. The numbers are good enough now that I can trace that quite nicely. Some days are massive over other days. So the point is, I'm saying all this to say this. Whatever you're into, my geeks, whatever your hobby is, whatever your passion is, don't give up right at the beginning because you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, because you're not making the progress you think you should be making. In a lot of what we do, this is a patience game. In a society that is so built on instant gratification, you have to understand that this is a game of patience. Getting good at a hobby, building a podcast, making a TV show, getting your music out there and up and going. It's a patience game. It's a long run patience game. We see these YouTube channels with like 9 million followers. Look back at how long that YouTube channel's been there. Over a decade. Usually a decade. It takes years to build up an audience. It takes years to get good at a craft. It takes years to get good at a hobby. So don't quit. Don't quit in all of your endeavors. And I promise you, the payoff is going to be so great. Like the pursuit is the payoff. Quick 30 seconds for Audi Central Houston. Like I said before in the previous segment, there's an Audi in every budget. So no matter what your outlay is, if you want to spend around, less than 30 grand on an A3, that comes with a lot of the same technology that's in the Audi R8 for 200 grand, whatever an Audi R8 costs. So no matter what money you spend on an Audi, you're going to get all the bang for the buck. So go visit my friends Audi Central Houston. Visit them right now, AudiCentralHouston.com. Welcome back to Geek Therapy Radio. Mental curator Johnny Hemberger. And guess what? I lied last segment. I said that I was going to get to a story about a Facebook moderator who's suing Facebook for PTSD. Moderating Facebook for PTSD. So we're going to talk about that in a segment. Quick note, there's a pumpkin asteroid that's going to fly by Earth here around Halloween time. So in a few weeks, 3 weeks or so, 3 or 4 weeks, whatever, there's a pumpkin-shaped asteroid that's going to make a close enough pass by Earth to deem it relevant as a news story. It's roughly shaped like a pumpkin. That's going to be around Halloween time. News story. A loose grab at a news story, but that's still pretty cool. I wonder how many people... this would actually be pretty cool. I might... Okay... I guess they know that it's shaped like a pumpkin. I guess they can see sort of that it's shaped like a pumpkin. How good can they really see it, though? Asteroids are small, and even though our telescopes are awesome, it's really hard to tell. Okay, regardless, we know, quote unquote, that it's shaped like a pumpkin. I might carve a pumpkin to look like the pumpkin asteroid. I don't know. That'd be kind of a cool artsy craftsy thing for some of my geeks to get into. What have you seen some pumpkin carvings? I swear we're going to talk about the Facebook moderator in a second. Have you seen some of these Facebook carvings, pumpkin carvings? They look photorealistic if the photo went through an orange filter. They are so intricate. It's absolutely mind-boggling. I can't understand the skill, in the dedication, in the talent that is involved towards making something that photorealistic out of a pumpkin. People do crazy stuff with watermelons too. Just type in like watermelon art and look. It is absolutely mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. All sorts of arts and like crafty things people do. People carve little miniature things into the lead of a pencil. The little tip of a pencil lead. They carve these like chain links into there. Linked chain links. That means, think about it. That's graphite that you're carving away, and you have to carve it such a way you can't like put the links together later. You can't do that. You have to make these loose links while you're carving out of a solid piece of graphite. It is graphite, right? It's not lead anymore. Was it lead when I was young? That would explain some things. Yeah, so people are very crafty. People do things like paint murals on the side of grains of rice. It is nuts what people get into, but that's the beauty of the world. If people weren't into that stuff, I wouldn't start Geek Therapy Radio. Geek Therapy Radio wouldn't be number 2 podcast on KPRC 950 AM despite its midnight time slot if I didn't believe that people wanted to hear about other people's hobbies and interests in tech news and science and just some guy on the radio geeking out and trying to be authentic. You know, you can go to YouTube, Geek Therapy Radio on YouTube, and see I'm not faking anything here. Hopefully it's endearing to listeners that I'm not trying to fake anything, and I'm not saying that any other hosts fake anything. I'm not saying that Kenny Webster's faking anything. Obviously, when you're listening to a parody and it's fake voices, it's acting, but I'm just saying I'm not perfect. This isn't polished. This is just me geeking out with you about different things, geeking out with you about different hobbies, geeking out with you about graphics cards. I talk about, the NVIDIA RTXs that have come out. Talk about computers and building computers and helicopters and airplanes. Talk about all sorts of stuff. So I'm hoping that I am conveying my youthful enthusiasm for these things across to you, and that you are digging it, that you can really tap into that yourself. I'm trying to spark that in you, the random listener to Geek Therapy Radio. And the audience is growing, so something's going right. Just got to stay focused, keep the eye on the ball. And that ball is just to stay true. That ball is to stay enthusiastic and not to force anything. You hear I have new sponsors now. I took Audi Central Houston on as a sponsor because first of all, I've been a customer of theirs for years before this radio show even happened. And my dad has been a customer of theirs for years before the radio show even happened. Rest my dad's soul. But I just think their cars are really neat. My dream car, I've got the DeLorean, but my high-tech dream car is the R8. That's the next thing. That's the big fish that is eluding me, is an R8. I don't even want a new R8. A used R8 would be fine. The point is, I think Audis are really cool, and I have an Audi, and I've been a customer of Audi Central Houston for years, so it was natural. I have like a enthusiasm for... Who doesn't have enthusiasm for an R8? Look at a picture of an R8. It's art. It is sexy art. So I just like the cars. So I'm not going to take on a sponsor that I don't like. Where was I going with all that? Oh yeah, just that, hopefully the I haven't lost the wonder for the world. I still look at the world with wonder. There's lots of things to look at the world with wonder about. Politics and social media and all that stuff, try to rip that out of you. And I'm trying to put that back in you, or hopefully make you remember what it was to be enthusiastic and curious about our world. That's what Geek Therapy Radio is all about. Move on to the actual meat and potatoes of this segment, and that is, I got the hiccups so bad tonight. A Facebook content moderator named Selena Scola. She sued social media. She sued Facebook because she claims to have PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, which I fully believe. I'm not discounting her claims at all. She says she has PTSD because of the repeated exposure to graphic and disturbing images that she had to moderate, that she had to sift through and filter on Facebook. Facebook, how many millions of people are on Facebook? Is it like 1 billion people on Facebook now? Something like that? There is going to be some horrible people putting horrible things, trying to post horrible things. Not to get too graphic here, but like terrorist decapitations and things, terrorist decapitating prisoners, child pornography, animal mutilation, like animal cruelty, things like that people are trying to continually post to Facebook, that people like this Selena woman have to see, because it takes a human to see and know this is not okay. This goes against the guidelines for Facebook. We can't allow this on here. So she sued Facebook saying that it gave her PTSD. Facebook has come back and said, we do our due diligence to provide them extra perks, like extra access to mental health doctors and those type of things. Extra resources for those people who have to day in, day out see the worst of humanity, see the horrible things that humans want to post. Humans want to post to social media. They're the front line and all that. A computer, as good as AI is, they can't tell a human decapitation from an episode of My Little Pony. So it's very difficult for computers. You need a person to do that. So this woman has sued Facebook that Facebook doesn't provide enough, that they didn't do good enough in keeping her from getting post-traumatic stress disorder. Where this gets a little murky now is that Facebook uses a third-party company to moderate this. So Facebook isn't directly the moderators. It could be, and this is interesting because this is the way I thought it was. I thought moderators worked in the same building as the programmers and the managers and all that kind of stuff for Facebook, and the developers and stuff for Facebook. No, that's not the way it was. I thought it was just here's finance, here's the moderators, here's the programmers, here's the developers, here's the marketing managers and all that kind of stuff. I thought it was all in one building, everyone just working together. Nope, the moderators outsourced, which is a massive and mind-boggling, in my opinion, oversight on Facebook's part. The moderators should be in the same room with the developers and marketing and the whole Facebook team. Theoretically, Zuckerberg should be able to walk out of his office on the days he shows up and go check on the moderators. That's critical. People try to post such horrific things to Facebook. The Facebook needs to be directly involved with the moderators and checking in with how the moderators are doing. That's my piece on that. 30 seconds for Audi Central Houston on the way out, even though I already did. I talked about him a little bit anecdotally in this segment. Audi Central Houston has you covered. Fuel-efficient vehicles. I talk about the A3 that gets about 37 miles to the gallon. They've got the new e-tron coming out next year. Make sure you're pre-ordering the e-tron. Put your name on the list. Zero emissions. Zero emissions on the Audi e-tron. It is absolutely amazing. So Audi Central Houston is your first stop for everything Audi. They'll take really good care of you. For now, just go visit AudiCentralHouston.com. You won't be disappointed. Welcome back to Geek Therapy Radio. Last segment here. We're going to talk about Star Trek. Where my Trekkies at? And if you're not really into Star Trek, this kind of... it's going to be interesting to you either way. If you care about anything in any sort of way, the way that any fan cares about anything, so Star Wars, maybe you got a favorite TV show that's not Star Trek, your favorite sports team, whatever. We're all fans. We're all geeks about some sort of organization, some sort of entertainment we're all geeks of. So this segment really kind of pertains to and will interest the full gamut of people. Like I said, welcome back to Geek Therapy Radio. I'm your mental curator, Johnny Hemberger, at Geek Therapy Radio on all the social media. So make sure you follow me on Twitter. I got to remember all the terms. Follow me on Twitter. Like the Geek Therapy Radio Facebook page. Subscribe to me on YouTube, Geek Therapy Radio on YouTube. And follow me on Instagram, Geek Therapy Radio on Instagram. So yeah, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this segment here on the way out. The last segment of Geek Therapy Radio. So there is a group of very dedicated Star Trek fans that were working on meticulously recreating the Enterprise from The Next Generation. So 1701D, is that what it is? Yeah. What's up? I've got a Federation sticker on the back of my car. Yeah, so the NCC 1701D, very dedicated group of programmers and developers making a simulator that, to a ridiculous detail, simulates 1701D, the Enterprise. The group calls themselves Stage 9. And these are the people that are making this, and they're using Unreal Engine 4. But Stage 9, this is what they're calling the project, and they are, they've made some headway on here. The idea is that it's be ready for VR, or even if you don't have VR, you can just walk around with your keyboard and mouse. And the whole thing is that to kind of put you in this mindset of what the detail and what they're trying to provide for people. Picture yourself sitting in 10 forward playing chess with Data or another crew member. That's the kind of realism they're going to go for. They're trying. It's so that you can explore the entire Enterprise. They are going through every bit of film footage. The show was shot on Stage 9. That's what they're calling it, as Stage 9. They're going through every bit of footage to faithfully recreate the Enterprise. I'm thinking of like crawlway scenes, like when Data and Geordi are crawling around in little crawl spaces of the Enterprise. They're recreating all that, like so you can lean in and see the meticulous detail on the wires and everything, and even explore areas that they say you haven't seen on the show. They're just extrapolating. So this is what this might look like. So imagine you're sitting at Data's chair on the deck. Imagine you're sitting in Picard's chair. Imagine you're the captain of the Enterprise. Riker's quarters. Go check out what's going on in engineering with Geordi. So they're very faithfully recreating this. And man, when I first caught wind of this, I just thought about how awesome it would be to put on my Oculus headset and be in the Enterprise in massively multiplayer to do what they say. Go play chess with somebody in 10 forward, drinking some synthahol. Was right? Synthahol, right? It's synthetic alcohol. Well, I think Scotty brought back actual. Oh, what did he bring back? Vodka? Remember he went to the. Never mind. I'm getting off track here. That's not the point of this. That's not the point of this segment. They received a cease and desist, like a no funny business, strict and stern cease and desist from CBS to halt everything going on with Studio 9. With Stage 9, sorry. They said stop it. It was, quote, it was stern, there was no room for compromise. Now, here's what I'm getting to with all of this. CBS mishandled this, in my opinion, in lots of Trekkies' opinion. Gene Roddenberry would be rolling in his grave over this. What CBS should have done here is, at least just said, make sure that you make it painfully aware and just be meticulous in how you present this to make sure people are aware that this is currently property of CBS. It's an intellectual property of us. We own it. Make sure that you do your due diligence to make sure that when you put this out there that they make sure that we own Star Trek. They didn't do that, though. CBS just said, stop it. Knock it off now. I sympathize to a very small degree with protecting your intellectual property. But here's my point. Star Trek wasn't really about the anal and greedy protection of the intellectual property of Star Trek. Lots of Next Generation episodes were not fan service, that's not the right word. Fans wrote the scripts to those shows. They said, wouldn't it be cool if Riker did this? Or wouldn't it be cool if Data was in this situation? So the writers for Star Trek did not write those episodes. They probably edited them. But it was fans who wrote those episodes. And fans have had a major, major, major role in the Star Trek series. Past, present, and future, fans have been heavily involved in making Star Trek what it is today. They are fervently protective of Star Trek. They love Star Trek. This is their baby. In my case, like our fathers like Star Trek. You know, they were watching Star Trek back in the 60s. We were raised on Star Trek. Star Trek is like a part of our family, and it's like a creative outlet for a lot of us. We write these scripts and we imagine the characters of Star Trek in different places. We love Star Trek. So basically what CBS did was slap all of us Star Trek fans in the face. They could have handled this so much better. They didn't have to be the fun police and say, stop it. Knock this off right now. They could have just said, make sure you put CBS crap everywhere. Make sure everyone who uses this, plays this game, know that it's us, CBS, who owns this. All of it. They didn't do that. They just said, stop it. They pooped in the punch. And they didn't have to do that. So that's why I said Gene Roddenberry would be rolling in his grave. Star Trek was supposed to be this all-inclusive thing. It was all races, all religions, all genders. It was this very progressive thing. And Star Trek, the idea of Star Trek belonged to everybody. But here, in a specific case of corporate greed, CBS, in this case, wants to take it away from us. No, we're going to give you the Star Trek we think you should be seeing. Bullcrap. Star Trek was for everybody. CBS just dropped the ball on this one. I'm sorry. You know what the best, to wrap up this segment, do you know what the best Star Trek is right now? The Orville. Drop the mic. But if it's a joke, it's not a joke. The Orville is the best Star Trek right now because it's a fan-made Star Trek. Last minute here for Audi Central Houston on the way out to end the show. Make sure you're following Geek Therapy Radio and all the stuff at Geek Therapy Radio. But Audi Central Houston, make sure you can follow Audi Central Houston on Instagram. They post really cool pictures of their products on Instagram. Audi Central Houston on Instagram. So you're seeing awesome pictures of like the new A4, new A6, new pictures of the R8, and especially the zero emissions e-tron. Audi Central Houston has you covered no matter what your budget is, no matter what Audi you want, no matter what type of efficiency you want. From driving the R8 to getting 37 miles to the gallon in an A3 to not burning gas at all in the new Audi e-tron. So make sure you go visit my friends, Audi Central Houston. Visit Danny Posa. He's the GM there. Tell him that you heard about Audi Central Houston and you're there because of Geek Therapy Radio. My partners support the show, so please support my partners. That's AudiCentralHouston.com. See you next week, my geeks. I love you all. Be good to each other. Be good to yourselves. We're all geeks about something. I love you all. Take care until next week.